The European Commission says it's preparing a range of tariffs on U.S. products worth some 95 billion euros in case trade talks with Washington break down. Products which could be targeted include industrial and agricultural goods, cars, and aircraft. The Commission has also launched a complaint against U.S. trade tariffs with the World Trade Organization. But the Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says Brussels is committed to reaching a negotiated solution. Our Brussels correspondent Christine Mundwa told me more about the goods on the EU's hit list.
Well, bear with me, Terry, because it is a bit of a long and a diverse list. But we know, as you've mentioned, aircraft is on there, cars and car parts, agri-food as well as fish, electronics, health-related products, not pharmaceuticals, health-related products. This includes things like syringes and tampons, alcohol and batteries. These goods are specifically what would be U.S. exports to the European Union. There is also the potential of targeting EU exports to the United States, and these are scrap metals, iron, aluminium, and steel. Now, with publishing this list, Terry, the Commission has essentially opened this process of consultation where it is going to be consulting with member states as well as stakeholders from these sectors that are affected. It's going to take in their feedback. There's a month-long period that has been allocated for that, after which we can expect that this list will be amended, perhaps stuff taken off of it, some stuff put back on. Notice we're not yet discussing the tariff levels. We're not talking percentages just yet. This is just possible goods that can be targeted in the event that a deal isn't reached with the United States. The other point to make here is that semiconductors, services, pharmaceuticals are not yet on this list so far as it stands right now.
There's so much information coming through about the state of trade. How would you describe, Christine, the current state of play in EU-US trade relations?
Well, we're at a very difficult place, Terry, and I think for the European Union, and you continue to hear this from officials, the preferred outcome here is some kind of a negotiated solutions. We've been speaking to EU officials here who are telling us that they've got to respond to the United States effectively changing the rules of the game, the fundamental rules of the game as it pertains to trade between these historic trade partners. So Brussels is saying, in a way, putting out this list and continuing with these preparations in the background is an acknowledgement on the part of the European Union that some of those tariffs that the United States has imposed will actually stick. Bear in mind, Terry, that right now, as we speak, about 70% of the EU's exports to the United States are under some level of tariff, and the Trade Commissioner here, Šefčovič, has even said that could go up to 97%. If the United States follows through by imposing tariffs on pharmaceuticals and semiconductors, for example. So it is quite a difficult period. And of course, you still have a concerted effort taking place here in Brussels to avert Brussels having to impose these retaliatory measures. Of course, the preferred outcome here is some kind of a negotiated solution with the United States. And hence you would have heard, even as these negotiations continue on the background, you would have heard public calls for zero-to-zero tariffs coming from all sorts of places, including in Berlin, where you are, Terry. This is the extent to which stakeholders, member states, are trying to avoid escalating this trade tariff war with the United States.
Christine, thank you very much. That was our Brussels correspondent, Christine Mundwa. And staying with tariffs and trade, we've got some news just coming in from Washington. President Donald Trump has confirmed that the U.S. and the U.K. have signed a reciprocal agreement on tariffs. This includes a reduction of red tape on both sides, too, and the fast tracking of goods through customs. Well, for more, let's bring in our Washington correspondent, Benjamin Alvarez-Gruber. Benjamin, what can you tell us about this deal?
So now we have more details. The press pool went into the Oval Office where President Trump was sitting along some of his cabinet members. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer was on the phone, also talked about this and praised this new agreement. What President Trump started outlining is that this is a very conclusive deal. He said it's good for both the United Kingdom and also for the United States. He called it an historic agreement with one of our closest and most cherished allies, saying, as you mentioned already, that there will be fast tracking for these products, not just products, British products that are exported to the United States, but also the other way around. And he also praised what he called as an additional market access for American chemicals, machinery, and other industrial products that weren't allowed. He said that they're still working on some of the details that will be finalized soon, but he mentioned that it's a very important day, historic day. He also tied it to a victory day and said this is a tremendous trade deal, and also kind of outlined what will happen with the next trade deals, as Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent will head to Switzerland on Saturday and meet also some other counterparts to try to find deals. But it was very important for the US administration to have this first deal, as pressure was mounting, not just during a Senate hearing with the Secretary of the Treasury, but also for the public, saying, when are these deals coming? If so many countries are trying to call the White House to find new deals, as the Trump administration was portraying it.
Well, President Trump has many irons in the fire, as it were, with respect to trade and tariffs. Benjamin, he earlier said that he's confident he'll reach deals like this one with other countries.
That's right. And that's why it's so important for them to show this first deal and say, you know, if you also want to have something like the United Kingdom, you should call us. That's also what Commerce Secretary said, who was standing next to him there at the Resolute desk in the Oval Office, saying there is no deal maker like President Trump, praising him, saying why it's so important to have this deal. But also we've seen kind of a shift in tone by the president, because it's not so easy to find this deals, to find these negotiations, because it's not as easy that you can negotiate just with one country. If you see, for example, with a bloc, with the negotiations that will happen with the European Union, he met several European leaders. He met the French President Macron, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, also the Italian Prime Minister, but of course they cannot speak in the name of the European Commission. So it's important to see this as a deal, because that's a strength that the White House actually has. Also, when we look at trade deals with Canada, with Mexico, is trying to negotiate with them directly and not them being combined and then trying to commonly or together in a group trying to negotiate with the United States. So that is a power that the White House is actually using, as there is criticism mounting. But with this first deal and also how the markets reacted, is a victory for the president to show that they are actually finding these deals, and now he wants to copy this actually and find additional deals with many other countries that have trade delegations here in Washington meeting with the US officials.
Benjamin, thank you very much. Our correspondent Benjamin Alvarez-Gruber in Washington there. So that's the view from the U.S. Let's cross to the U.K. now, and in London is our correspondent Birgit Maas. Birgit, we heard that this deal is being seen as a victory for the United States. So what's the view from the U.K.?
Well, it's only very, very freshly announced, so we still have to look through the fine print, and that's what the analysts will be doing in the next hours. We don't know yet some of the crucial details, I think. So which markets are affected? What exactly is the UK also conceding? For example, will the UK have to concede any lowering, for example, of taxes that they impose on the US, for example, the digital services tax? Also, what exactly is the access for the US agricultural industry for the UK? That's something that British farmers are very much concerned about. Will there be a lowering of food standards involved? That's something that a lot of British people would really not like. There's this talk of the famous chlorinated chicken. Will that be allowed in the UK? And surely this is what people will need to know in order to assess properly the economic impact of this new deal. However, politically, it is going to be a success for for Keir Starmer, because he's been always very, very careful to not criticize President Trump in public and have this diplomacy, very close diplomatic ties with him, when it came to Ukraine, but also evidently more behind the scenes when it comes to this new trade announcement.
Birgit, thank you very much. Our correspondent Birgit Master in London.